to them thought crimes, baby.
Welcome to Thought Crimez, everyone. Presented to you by Black Spot TV.
Hey, this is your man, Prince Solomon. I'm here with
Sincere Ignorance.
Yo, guess who's back in the news again? Back from the dead for the umpteenth time, talking about one of the most celebrated and polarizing and most analyzing figures within hip-hop. One Mr. Tupac Machiavellian Shakur. Look, he had a letter that goes up for auction for about $30,000. And in the letter, you know, he's talking about the usual sin. He's talking about Dr. Dre is gay. He don't know if you want to suck dick or eat pussy. He's talking about Biggie and Puffy praying for his downfall. And he's talking about Wyclef's cousin, Mr. Hasten Jack. So, how do you feel about this situation?
I felt there was nothing from that letter that hasn't been discussed already. And, you know, everyone already talked about him not liking him and Dr. Dre falling out because of Dr. Dre taking credit for an instrumental that he did not create. Also for Tupac discovering that he was bisexual. And also, it was already talked about the issues between him, Biggie, and Puff, and so on and so forth. But I understand new ears means new information to them. You know what I'm saying? Do you always get a new group that comes into hip-hop discovering the truth? And I guess for people, like, this is a confirmation that this is what Tupac really felt, even though you had a lot of people close by him that did say he already felt this way.
Yeah, and you know, my take on it is this. I'll be honest with you, because Wrap Up is talking about it, Complex is talking about it. I think, if anything, this is just advertisement for the fact that this letter is up for $30,000 as far as an auction that is supposed to be taking place. So if anything, I think this is just like it's marketing for them. You know, oh, look, by the way, shocking information on this letter, because they're trying to get people to buy a lot of Tupac memorabilia. They've been doing that for the past 2 years, ever since his mother had passed away. You know, we had recently, not too long ago, the chain that when Tupac was shot in Las Vegas, the chain he was wearing at the time, they had put that up for auction. He put the BMW up, or I believe it was the Impala. It might have been I think it was an Impala. It might have been. No, I think it was a BMW. Whatever the case is, somebody will correct me. That he was shot in with Suge Knight. That went up for auction. And we've been seeing a lot of these items go up for auction lately. So I think this here, if anything, this is just for them to let everybody know that, by the way, an auction will be taking place. If you're interested, come on down. But to your point, for a lot of hip-hop heads, new hip-hop heads, I always kind of liken the Biggie and Tupac situation to those who are of later generations come in and they are becoming obsessed with, you know, the Kennedy assassination. Because there was a lot of people that took up researching and going into the Kennedy assassination that they weren't around at that time as well. And we see the same thing with Tupac and Biggie.
And let's talk about the people in the hip-hop community, the commentators and all those those who made documentaries on this story. They've already brought up this information, that already said everything that was in the letter. You know, let's go through the list of those pioneers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's been talked about ad nauseum. I mean, even for me personally, the first time I actually heard, you know, anything was on one of his posthumous album was Until the End of Time, you know. And then you have the recordings. Tupac, it's weird. It's almost like he was in social media before social media. You know, there's so many videos and footages and sound clips and sound bites and audio of him of talking shit about Dr. Dre. You know, they have him screaming on the phone talking about, you know, Dre don't know if he want to suck dick or eat pussy. He upstairs fucking men and women. And, you know, Snoop Dogg tries to skirt around the issue. He don't like to talk about it, but you know, you go to Daz Dillinger, Corrupt, you go to the Outlaws, even Hussein Fatal, who passed away, a Jersey native. I mean, you can go to a lot of people that, you know, within the inner workings of Death Row, they talked about these things already, and they said, no, this was a real issue within Death Row Records. And then one other thing about it is that people kind of say, you know, oh, Suge Knight changed Tupac, when many people working in Death Row Records said it was actually the other way around. Tupac had a lot of influence on Suge Knight. Suge Knight actually admired Tupac, and he was willing to follow him and capitulate to anything and any request that Tupac wanted at the time. So yeah, I mean, this was going on, and part of that was when Tupac was calling out Dr. Dre. you know, and Suge Knight had no problem riding with that. He was already having some issues with Dr. Dre, and, you know, because he was such a fanboy for Tupac, you know, he just went on right with it too. And Tupac was generating the most money off of Death Row Records anyway.
And then you also had commentators later down the line, like Doggy Diamonds and other people that have talked about what took place there, with Tupac and Dr. Dre and Suge Knight and, you know, Puffy and Biggie, you know. So these conversations from the Source magazine, so on and so forth, you know, has been discussed. And I guess it's okay for, again, people to reunite it, because again, every time you get new ears, certain things are going to be seen as new. It's like you and I, from watching you know, everything about Tupac's life and the people who were close to him. For example, we already knew he dated Madonna briefly. You know, he was in that circle briefly, you know, and of course that relationship didn't continue because of his persona and different. But it's the whole point is, it's like,
it's been there.
You know, the information's been there. It's not like we're saying, oh, there's no point of talking about it, because I do think it's kind of snobbish to try to derail the conversation just because there's newbies there. You know, it's like you said with the JFK assassination, or if you talk about anything historically or music, it's fine for people to want to have these discussions, because it's always going to be new for somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. You know, you have to take yourself out of it. I have no problem with it, to be honest with you. I would say Tupac still hands down is the most talked about artist in hip hop, and he's not even here. Even if we're talking about with the littles taking shots at him or throwing dust on his name to get clout, but one could say Tupac kicked dust around as well to get clout. So it all kind of works in tandem, just different ways about doing it. But you know, Tupac has so much audio information and stuff about him online that people are going to click. I mean, you have new fans all the time. So this information, though, with the letter itself, I mean, if you're a Tupac fan, you already know this stuff. But as I said, I feel that if anything, it's just for them to advertise, to let everybody know that this bidding, this auction will be starting, and it's, you know, 30,000. It's like a commercial for them, you know. So a lot of people, just same thing with the Madonna letter. You know, people got the Madonna letters. Oh, I didn't know. And Tupac was in those spaces. You know,
he was an actor. He did some movies, film too. People forget.
Tupac was Hollywood.
He did. He was having a promising film career
as a thespian.
Yeah. You know, and that's something he started off with, of course, as a child, as a kid, with Jada and the rest of them, that crowd, when he
School of the Arts, Baltimore.
It wasn't just music for him, it was acting too.
Yeah, and people kind of forget just how eclectic a lot of the socialization of different stars at the time. I mean, they got photos of Kurt Cobain and Biggie Smalls hanging with each other. So, I mean, a lot of stars in the 90s was just rubbing shoulders with each other. So it would have been nothing for Tupac or Madonna or even a Michael Jackson all be in the same space, especially in the 90s.
And also people like, yo, Tupac really wasn't gangster. He was phony. He was faking it. He really became those things. He became those stereotypes. Did he start off that way? Absolutely not. Again, this is the Juilliard's type of kid with a little bit of dust on him. And I mean dust with what people perceive being in an urban environment, eventually consuming to stereotypes and traits that he eventually took on himself, with beating up people that were innocent, with you know, with a lot of the rowdy, raunchy things that he did during his Machiavelli days and a little bit before that. So it showcased a transitioning of someone who was loosening their morals, their morality, and also not caring about the associations that they had. So, you know, and that's why that was the most chaotic time in his life.
I would actually say from Tupac, the Strictly From My Nigga days, all the way up until, you know, All Eyes on Me, is where you saw Tupac have more run-ins. I mean, even before we got to All Eyes on Me, he was already a pariah in the media. You know, if you're talking about Me Against the World, remember his album, he was the first artist to have a #1 album behind jail. You know, his album charted over Bruce Springsteen while he was still in jail with the Me Against the World album. And even during his Strictly For My Niggas days, this is still the era where, you know, he was getting in trouble, run-ins with the law, you know, challenging police officers publicly, all of that crazy stuff that Tupac had been on. So
sorry everyone, but if you want to watch the rest of this video, you're going to have to head over to Black Spot. And not just head over there, but subscribe to our channel. Black Spot TV is where it's at. Peace. Are you tired of the same ridiculous corporate-backed videos trending over original content creators?
This is the real Alex Jones, as you can see.
Pants, poopy pants, poopy pants.
Then join Black Spot TV. Free from the chains of silly censorship and biased algorithms, you can share, explore, and view content by people like you. Black Spot TV.
What business are you in?
I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
I make my bread and butter. I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I'm pushing. I'm pushing.
What business are you in?
I make my bread and